The grand chamber of the Galactic Council fell silent as the massive obsidian doors swung open. Admiral Marcus Vega, humanity's reluctant representative, strode forward, his weathered face betraying no emotion despite the hundreds of alien eyes tracking his every move. The chamber itself, a vast amphitheater carved from a living asteroid, housed delegates from over 3,000 species, none of whom had spoken to humanity in over 70 years. "The human approaches," announced High Arbiter Tulvar, her translucent tentacles rippling with bioluminescent patterns. "Humanity's representative stands before this council for the first time since the Exile decree." Marcus kept his gaze level, refusing to be intimidated by the council members who had, generations ago, declared Earth and all its colonies forbidden territory. Behind him stood Lieutenant Sophia Reyes, her hand resting casually near her side armor, a gesture not missed by the security drones hovering above. 73 years, 4 months and 16 days, Marcus replied, his voice echoing throughout the chamber. "That's how long your exile decree has stood. That's how long humanity has survived Thrivedao, without your so-called protection." He paused, allowing his words to sink in. "And yet here I am, summoned by the very council that once called my species too dangerous to join galactic society." The 7 Supreme Councilors exchanged glances from their elevated platforms. It was the Dravari representative who spoke next, his crystalline form refracting light as he leaned forward. "Admiral Vega, your presence was requested not to revisit old judgments, but because circumstances have changed." The crystal being's voice resonated with unmistakable tension. "The galaxy faces an unprecedented threat, and the Council requires humanity's unique capabilities." Marcus raised an eyebrow. "You mean the same unique capabilities that frightened you into exiling us 70 years ago?" "Precisely those," the Dravari confirmed as murmurs rippled through the assembled delegates. High Arbiter Tulvar signaled for silence. "Admiral, the Voidborn have returned, and humanity may be the only civilization capable of stopping them." Marcus's stoic expression finally broke, replaced by genuine surprise, not at the threat, but at the admission. "So the mighty Galactic Council needs the savages of Earth after all." A low growl emerged from the Kreeth representative, a massive furred being with multiple rows of teeth. "Watch your tone, human. Your kind was not exiled for being savage but for being unpredictable." "Unpredictability," Marcus countered, "is exactly what you need right now, isn't it?" The Supreme Councilor of the Aelori, a tall, willowy being with pale blue skin and 6 fingers on each hand, stood and approached. "Admiral, we understand your bitterness, but the Voidborn threat supersedes old grievances. They consume entire star systems. 3 border worlds have already fallen." Marcus turned to Lieutenant Reyes, who nodded almost imperceptibly. She activated a small device on her wrist. Holographic displays appeared around them, showing detailed schematics that made several council members gasp. "These are the defense systems Earth has developed during our isolation," Marcus explained. "Phase shift technology, quantum displacement engines, neural disruption fields, all things your council deemed too dangerous for galactic society." "Impossible," whispered a gelatinous entity from the lower tiers. "These advancements should have taken centuries." "Nothing drives innovation like necessity." Reyes spoke for the first time, her voice calm but commanding. "When you cast us out, we had no choice but to become stronger." The chamber erupted in overlapping voices. Some delegates demanded immediate alliance, others called for human technology to be confiscated, a few even suggested destroying Earth before humanity became too powerful. Admiral Vega raised his hand, and to everyone's surprise the chamber quieted. "We will help you fight these Voidborn," he stated firmly, "but not as your servants or weapons. As equals." "Equals?" The Kreeth representative barked a laugh that sounded like grinding metal. "After less than a century of isolation, you believe humanity deserves equal standing with species that have been part of galactic civilization for millennia?" Marcus smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "We're not asking for equality based on history. We're demanding it based on necessity. You need us more than we need you." The truth of his words hung in the air. The council members shifted uncomfortably. High Arbiter Tulvar's tentacles flashed rapid patterns of light. "This council will confer privately on your proposal, Admiral." She gestured toward a side chamber. "Please wait there." As Marcus and Sophia were escorted away, they overheard fragments of heated debate. The council was deeply divided, In the waiting chamber, a smaller but no less impressive room with walls that seemed to shift like liquid mercury, Marcus finally relaxed his rigid posture. That went as expected, Reyes commented, scanning the room for surveillance devices. Better than expected, Marcus replied. They're desperate. Did you see their faces when we showed our tech? The real question is whether they'll try to steal it or use it, Reyes said. She found what she was looking for, a small monitoring node, and casually shorted it with a device concealed in her uniform cuff. They'll try both, Marcus answered, lowering his voice now that they had privacy. Did you make contact with our allies? Sophia nodded. The Marathi and Solaran representatives will support us openly. The Teshan are still hesitant. 3 out of the 1,000 species here, Marcus sighed. Not great odds. 4, Sophia corrected with a faint smile. The Elsirans sent a coded message during the presentation. They've experienced voidborn attacks firsthand and want our help specifically. Before Marcus could respond, the mercury-like wall rippled and High Arbiter Tulvar emerged. Her bioluminescent patterns were subdued, indicating either distress or deep thought. The Council has reached a preliminary decision, she announced. We propose a probationary alliance. Humanity will provide technological assistance against the voidborn threat. In return, the Exile decree will be suspended. Not revoked, but suspended indefinitely pending further review. Marcus crossed his arms. And our autonomy? Earth and its colonies will remain under human governance, Tulvar conceded. But Council observers must be allowed to monitor the deployment of your more advanced technologies. Spies, you mean? Sophia said flatly. Insurance, Tulvar corrected. The Voidborn are unlike any enemy this galaxy has faced. They exist partially outside normal spacetime. 3 entire species have been eradicated already. Their histories literally erased from existence. If your technology can combat such a threat, we must ensure it does not fall into the wrong hands. Marcus and Sophia exchanged looks. They had expected this. We'll agree on one condition, Marcus stated. Humanity gets a seat on the Supreme Council for the duration of this crisis. Tulvar's tentacles flashed with agitation. Impossible. Supreme Council positions are earned over centuries of, Those are our terms, Marcus interrupted firmly. Equal partnership or nothing. We won't be your weapons without having a say in how we're deployed. The High Arbiter's form seemed to shrink slightly. I will convey your demand to the Council. But be warned. Many will see this as confirmation of humanity's dangerous ambition. After she departed, Sophia turned to Marcus. They'll never agree. The Supreme Council hasn't admitted a new member in over 400 years. They will, Marcus replied confidently, because we have something they don't know about yet. He tapped his temple meaningfully. The Nexus Protocol, Sophia whispered. Are you sure we should reveal that? Not yet, Marcus said, but soon. First, let's see how desperate they really are. Hours later, they were summoned back to the Grand Chamber. The mood had changed noticeably. Where before there had been contempt and superiority, now there was caution, even fear. The Council has accepted your terms, High Arbiter Tulvar announced, her voice carrying a hint of resignation. Humanity will be granted a probationary seat on the Supreme Council for the duration of the Voidborn crisis. Murmurs of discontent rippled through the chamber, but they were quickly silenced. In 3 days, the High Arbiter continued, you will present your defensive capabilities to the full Council. Until then, you and your lieutenant will be provided accommodations befitting your new status. As they were escorted out by a contingent of guards, Marcus caught sight of a hooded figure observing from a shadowed alcove. Figure that wasn't on any official registry of Council members. We're being watched, he whispered to Sophia. By more than just the official channels, she agreed quietly. The question is who's watching us because they fear us and who's watching because they need us. Either way, Marcus replied as they exited the Grand Chamber, humanity's exile is ending, and the real game is just beginning. Behind them, the massive obsidian doors closed with an ominous finality, sealing the deal that would forever change humanity's place in the galaxy. Darkness swirled around the massive holographic display in the center of the Council's strategic command chamber. Admiral Marcus Vega stood transfixed as the recording played, Brahmer entire star systems blinking out, one by one, consumed by what appeared to be living shadows. The Voidborn moved like ink through water, defying normal physics as they engulfed planets, ships, and even light itself. This footage was captured 3 standard months ago at the Polaris boundary, explained General Dox. A reptilian Soren with scales that shifted color with his emotions was currently a deep, worried purple. An entire defense fleet gone in minutes. Lieutenant Sophia Reyes circled the display, her trained eyes analyzing attack patterns. They don't move like normal matter, she observed. They're not just Darko, they're absence. Voids in reality. High Arbiter Tolvar's tentacles flickered nervously, hence the name. The Voidborn exist partially outside our dimension. Conventional weapons pass through them. Energy weapons are absorbed. They feed on matter, energy, even information itself. Marcus crossed his arms. And you believe humanity can stop them? Why? The 7 Supreme Counselors exchanged uncomfortable glances. It was the Elori representative who finally spoke, her 6-fingered hands making elegant gestures as she explained. 73 years ago, when we enacted the Exile Decree, it wasn't just because humanity was deemed unpredictable, she admitted. It was because your species possesses a unique neurological structure. Your brains operate on quantum principles unlike any other sentient life we've encountered. Marcus's eyes narrowed. You exiled us because of how our brains work? We feared you, the crystalline Dravari counselor interjected. Humans can perceive and interact with multiple potential realities simultaneously. It's what makes your species so adaptable and dangerous. The Voidborn operate on similar principles but inverted. Sophia stepped forward, anger flashing in her eyes. You've been monitoring us this whole time, haven't you? Despite the Exile Decree, the chamber fell silent. Even General Dox's scale shifted to an embarrassed yellow. We maintained observation posts, Tolvar finally admitted. For security purposes only. Marcus laughed bitterly. Security, of course. He turned to Sophia. Contact Earth. Tell them to send in the Nexus team. The name sent a ripple of confusion through the assembled council representatives. They had expected Earth to send weapons, ships, perhaps special forces, but the term Nexus meant nothing to them. What is this Nexus? Demanded the Kreth counselor, baring his multiple rows of teeth. You wanted humanity's unique capabilities, Marcus replied coolly. You're about to get them. 24 hours later, the council's docking bay received a small, unassuming human vessel. When its doors opened, only 4 people emerged. Hardly the army of super soldiers many council members had expected. Marcus and Sophia greeted them warmly. The Nexus team consisted of Dr. Eliana Ferris, a neurophysicist with calm eyes and a quiet demeanor, Major James Donovan, a military strategist whose alert gaze missed nothing, Dr. Victor Rousseau, a technology specialist with nimble hands constantly in motion, and Thomas Reed, a young man with no apparent rank or title who moved with unusual grace. When they entered the strategic command chamber, the council representative studied them with obvious disappointment. This is your solution? Scoffed the Kreth counselor. 4 ordinary humans? Dr. Ferris smiled politely. If I may? Without waiting for permission, she activated a device on her wrist. The holographic display in the center of the room transformed, showing complex neural patterns. This is a standard council species brain scan, she explained. And this how? The display shifted, showing a dramatically different pattern. Her was a human brain. The council's leading scientist, Moktal, a small being with oversized eyes and 6 limbs, leaned forward with sudden interest. The quantum entanglement at the neural level. Impossible. Not impossible, Dr. Ferris corrected. Just unique to us. Human consciousness exists partially in quantum superposition. We perceive multiple potential realities simultaneously and collapse them through decision and action. Like the Voidborn, whispered the Aelori, counselor. Opposite to the Voidborn, corrected Thomas Reed, speaking for the first time. His voice was soft but carried unusual weight. They expand potentialities. We collapse them. They create chaos. We create order. Major Donovan stepped forward. We've developed technology based on this principle. He placed a small device on the floor that projected a shimmering field around him. Phase shift shields. They don't stop the Voidborn Awar. They deny them access to our reality entirely. The council chamber erupted in excited chatter. Moktal scurried forward, his scientific curiosity overriding protocol. The quantum field manipulation. This should be impossible without causing cascade failures in local spacetime. Dr. Rousseau smiled. That was the challenge. Took us decades to solve it. How many of these devices can Earth provide? Demanded General Dox, his scales shifting to an eager green. That depends, Marcus interjected, on how honest the Council is willing to be with us. Because we know you're still holding back crucial information. The chamber fell silent again. High Arbiter Tulvar's tentacles ceased their movement entirely. A sign of extreme distress in her species. What do you mean? She asked cautiously. Sophia activated her own device, projecting a different set of images, Zarost ancient star charts, biological samples, and what appeared to be fragments of a massive technology unlike anything in current use. We found these in the archives you thought were secured from our access, she explained calmly. Records dating back nearly 10,000 years. The Voidborn have appeared before, haven't they? The Supreme Councilors looked stricken, the Dravari's crystalline form clouded with emotion. It is true, the High Arbiter finally admitted. The Voidborn have appeared in cycles throughout galactic history, always after periods of significant technological advancement. Dr. Ferris studied the ancient charts with growing concern. These readings, they're not just similar to current Voidborn signatures. They're identical. She looked up sharply. The Voidborn haven't returned. They never left. Moktal nervously tapped his multiple limbs together. The Council has maintained containment protocols for millennia. Special facilities in dead systems keeping them dormant. Containment? Major Donovan's voice was dangerously quiet. You've been containing them? Not destroying them? They cannot be destroyed. General Dox's scales flashed red with agitation. They exist partially outside normal spacetime. The best we could do was keep them dormant in isolated regions. Thomas Reed had been silent, his eyes closed as if in deep concentration. Suddenly he spoke. The containment is failing because they're evolving, adapting. They've developed resistance to your suppression technology. The Council representatives stared at him in shock. How could you possibly know that? Whispered Moktal. Reed opened his eyes, which briefly flashed with an unusual light. Because I can see them. The quantum entanglement in human brains gives us a connection. Most humans feel it only as intuition or déjà vu. Some of us, he gestured to himself, have developed it further. Dr. Ferris placed a supportive hand on Reed's shoulder. Thomas is what we call a quantum adept. He can perceive the probability waves the Voidborn manipulate. The Council chamber descended into chaos, some representatives calling this witchcraft, others demanding immediate access to Reed's abilities, and still others suggesting this proved humans were too dangerous to trust. High Arbiter Tulvar finally restored order. This changes nothing about our alliance. It simply makes it more urgent. It changes everything, Marcus countered firmly. You've been lying to us from the start. What else aren't you telling us about the Voidborn? Before the High Arbiter could respond, alarms blared throughout the chamber. General Dox rushed to a control panel, his scales paling to white. Voidborn signatures detected in the Centauri sector, he announced, voice tight with fear. They've breached the inner defense perimeter. Dr. Rousseau glanced at Marcus. That's only 3 jumps from Earth. It's also where we've stationed our primary research facility, Moktal added, wringing his hands. The one studying Voidborn containment technology. The implications weren't lost on anyone. The Voidborn weren't appearing randomly. They were targeting specific locations with strategic value. They're intelligent, Thomas Reed whispered. Collectively intelligent and growing more so with each system they consume. Marcus turned to the Supreme Council, his expression hardening. We need to move now. No more secrets, no more half-truths. Full disclosure of everything you know about the Voidborn or humanity walks away. You wouldn't, gasped the Aelori counselor. Your own world is threatened. Earth has survived without Council protection for 73 years, Sophia reminded them coldly. We've developed defenses you can't imagine. But against the Voidborn RO, General Dox began. We've encountered them before, Dr. Ferris interrupted, causing another shockwave through the chamber. Isolated incidents, small incursions. We didn't know what they were called, but we fought them and won. The Council representative stared in disbelief. Marcus pressed the advantage. Full disclosure, he repeated, or we take our team and our technology and leave you to your fate. High Arbiter Tulvar's tentacles flashed patterns of defeat. Very well. The Supreme Council will The command ship Defiance hung in space above the dying world of Proxima Centauri III, its sensors tracking the swirling darkness consuming the planet's surface. On the observation deck, Admiral Marcus Vega watched in grim silence as tendrils of void matter reached upward, as if sensing the ship's presence despite its phase shift shields. "They're getting bolder," noted General Dox, his scales a troubled gray-blue. "Each attack pattern shows greater coordination than the last." Thomas Reed stood apart from the others, his eyes unfocused as he observed realities no one else could see. "They're learning," he whispered, "adapting to our defenses." The Joint Human-Alien Task Force had been established with surprising speed after the Council's reluctant revelations. Necessity had overridden millennia of caution. Now ships from 12 species worked alongside Earth vessels, implementing human phase shift technology under the guidance of Dr. Rousseau and his team. Dr. Eliana Ferris entered the observation deck, her face tight with concern. "Admiral, we need to talk privately." Marcus nodded and followed her to a secure chamber adjacent to the main deck. Lieutenant Sophia Reyes joined them, sealing the door behind her. "What have you found?" Marcus asked once they were alone. Eliana activated a portable holographic display. "I've been analyzing the Council's ancient records on the Voidborn origin. Most of the data was corrupted out deliberately, I suspect, but I've managed to recover fragments." The display showed schematics for an ancient device of immense complexity. The Council didn't just create a weapon. They were trying to develop technology to manipulate reality itself. "For what purpose?" Sophia asked, studying the strange designs. "Immortality," Eliana replied grimly. "The founding species of the Council sought to escape death by transferring consciousness into a stable pocket dimension where time functioned differently. The Voidborn were an unexpected side effect of our conscious voids in reality that feed on matter and energy to grow." Marcus paced the small chamber. "So the Council's ancestors accidentally created a predator that eats reality itself. And they've been containing it for thousands of years rather than admitting their mistake." "It gets worse," Eliana continued, changing the display to show comparative brain scans. "Look at these patterns. Human neural quantum functions compared to Voidborn energy signatures." Sophia leaned closer, her eyes widening. "They're inverse complements." "Exactly," Eliana confirmed. "The Voidborn operate on principles directly opposite to human consciousness. We collapse quantum possibilities into defined reality. They expand defined reality into quantum chaos. Which explains why they're specifically targeting human settlements now," Marcus concluded. "We're existential threats to each other." A soft tone indicated an incoming communication. Sophia checked the source and nodded to Marcus. "It's Major Donovan. The advanced team has reached the research facility." Marcus activated the secure channel. "Report, Major." Major James Donovan's voice came through clearly despite obvious background chaos. "Sir, the facility is compromised. Half the station is already consumed by void matter. We've secured the research data and are evacuating surviving personnel, but—" An explosion interrupted him, followed by shouting. "We're under attack. Not just Voidborn, our Council security forces." "Council forces?" Marcus repeated in disbelief. "Donovan, confirm." "Confirmed." Donovan shouted over weapons fire. "They're trying to destroy the research before we can access it. Something about Project Genesis, The communication cut off abruptly. Marcus turned to Sophia, his expression hardening. "Set course for the research station. Maximum speed. And find Mokhtala. I want answers." On the bridge of the Defiance, chaos erupted as the ship prepared for emergency jump. General Dox protested loudly, scales flashing warning red. "This is outside our mission parameters," he objected. "The research facility was already considered lost." "Then why are Council security forces attacking our people there?" Sophia demanded, standing toe-to-toe with the much larger alien. Before Dox could respond, Mokhtal scurried onto the bridge, his multiple limbs clutching data tablets. "Admiral, you must not go to the facility." Marcus fixed the small alien scientist with a cold stare. "Why? What's Project Genesis?" Mokhtal's oversized eyes darted nervously between the humans and General Dox. "It's classified beyond your clearance, our people are dying." Marcus cut him off. "My people? There is no more classified. Tell me about Project Genesis now, or I'll assume the Council is directly sabotaging our joint mission." Thomas Reed had followed them to the bridge, moving silently as always. Now he spoke, his voice distant yet precise. Project Genesis was the original name for the technology that created the Voidborn. They're trying to recreate it. All eyes turned to him in shock. Moktal seemed to physically deflate. How could you possibly know that? He whispered. Because I can see the connections, Reed replied simply. Quantum threads binding past to present. The Council isn't just trying to contain the Voidborn Arot, a faction within it wants to control them, weaponize them again. General Dox's scales shifted to an unusual pattern of shame mixed with defiance. Not the full Council, he admitted reluctantly. A splinter group called the Continuum. They believe that with modern technology, the original project can be perfected. The Voidborn controlled rather than contained. Sophia's hand moved to her sidearm. And our team just stumbled onto their secret lab. The Defiance will reach the research station in 20 minutes, announced the navigation officer. Marcus turned to Moktal. Was humanity's exile part of this? Keep us away because we could interfere with their plans for the Voidborn. The small scientist's nervous movements confirmed the accusation before he spoke. Human quantum consciousness was the only thing that disrupted the original experiments. The Council feared your species would detect and expose Project Genesis if allowed to join galactic society. Marcus's communicator chimed again, another secure channel, but not from Donovan's team. He activated it cautiously. Admiral Vega, came a synthesized voice, impossible to identify by species or gender. Not all Council members support the Continuum's actions. There are those of us who believe humanity must be allowed to help. Sending coordinates now. Your team is being held there. A string of encrypted data followed. Sophia quickly transferred it to the ship's navigation system. It's a hidden facility, she reported, on the dark side of the research station's moon. Heavily shielded. It could be a trap, General Dox warned, his scales now a conflicted purple. Marcus studied the reptilian officer. Where do you stand, General? With the Continuum or against them? Dox's inner conflict played out in rippling colors across his scales before settling into a determined blue. My duty is to protect galactic civilization, not perpetuate its mistakes. I stand with you, Admiral. Then help us save our people and stop this madness, Marcus ordered. All hands battle stations. We're going in hot. The Defiance altered course, its engines pushing to maximum as it headed toward the hidden facility. In the ship's medical bay, Dr. Eliana Ferris worked frantically with Thomas Reed, developing a theory that might explain everything. If I'm right, she told him as they studied neural scans, the Voidborn aren't just drawn to human consciousness. They're specifically targeting it because human minds can perceive and potentially manipulate the same quantum fields they exist in. Reed nodded, his unusual perception confirming her theory. They fear us because we can see them for what they truly are, so not just void, but potential. Unformed reality. Eliana's eyes widened with sudden understanding. That's it. They're not destroying reality. They're reverting it to a quantum state where all possibilities exist simultaneously. To them, defined reality is a prison, and human consciousness is the jailer, Reed finished. We collapse quantum potential into single outcomes through observation and decision. Their revelation was interrupted as the Defiance shuddered under sudden attack. The ship had arrived at the hidden facility, only to find it surrounded by Council warships bearing the insignia of the Continuum faction. On the bridge, Marcus assessed their options rapidly. Phase shift shields at maximum. Prepare to deploy fighters. Target their weapons and engines only. We want to disable, not destroy. Admiral, Sophia called from the communication station. I'm picking up a transmission from inside the facility. It's Major Donovan! Donovan's voice came through filled with static. Admiral, if you can hear this, the Continuum has captured the original Genesis device. They're planning to activate it to control the Voidborn, but there's something else, His voice dropped lower, forcing everyone to strain to hear. They have human test subjects. Dozens of them taken in violation of the Exile decree. They've been experimenting on human brain tissue for decades. Marcus felt cold fury rise within him. The Council's betrayal was far deeper than they had imagined. Can you prevent them from activating the device? He asked. Negative, Donovan replied. It's already powering up. But we've found allies, Air Council scientists who oppose the project. They're helping us sabotage it from within. A new voice joined the communication, a melodic and definitely non-human. This is Representative Lyra of the Marathi. My people have opposed the continuum for centuries. We have control of the facility's secondary systems. We can open a docking bay for your forces, Admiral Vega. Marcus exchanged looks with Sophia and General Dox, Iru. The Earth fleet emerged from hyperspace in perfect formation, 100 ships of varying sizes, each bearing the insignia of the United Earth Defense Force. At their center, the massive dreadnought Prometheus dwarfed even the largest council vessels. Its hull gleamed with technology unknown to galactic society, radiating power that made nearby sensors fluctuate wildly. On the bridge of the Defiance, Admiral Marcus Vega watched the fleet's arrival with grim satisfaction. Behind him, the High Arbiter Tulvar and several council representatives stood in stunned silence. "Impossible," whispered the Aelori counselor. "Your world couldn't have built such a fleet in mere decades." "Necessity breeds innovation," Marcus replied without turning. "When you cast us out, you forced us to become stronger. And we did." The battle against the Continuum forces had reached a stalemate. Lieutenant Sophia Reyes and her strike team had successfully infiltrated the hidden facility, but communication had been spotty since then. Meanwhile, more Continuum warships had arrived, threatening to overwhelm the Defiance. Marcus had sent the emergency signal to Earth 3 hours ago. Now reinforcements had arrived and was far more than the Council had ever suspected humanity possessed. "Admiral," came a familiar voice over the command channel. "Fleet Commander Ishida reporting. Earth Defense Force ready to engage at your command." "Hold position, Commander," Marcus ordered. "This is still a rescue operation. Target Continuum vessels only. Disable rather than destroy. And prepare to deploy the Ares Protocol." At the mention of Ares Protocol, Tulvar's tentacles rippled with agitation. "What is this protocol? You've shared no such information with the Council." Marcus finally turned to face the alien representatives. "Because it wasn't relevant until now. The Ares Protocol is our answer to the Voidborn or ships capable of entering their dimension and fighting them on their own terms." The Council members exchanged alarmed glances. "That's theoretically impossible," objected a Teshan scientist. "Nothing physical can survive in the void dimension." "Nothing conventional," agreed Dr. Eliana Ferris as she entered the bridge. "But we've developed quantum-entangled pilot interfaces, human consciousness tethered to specialized vessels that exist simultaneously in normal space and void space." "Abomination," gasped the Dravari counselor. "Such technology risks further reality disruption," says the civilization that created the Voidborn in the first place, Marcus countered coldly. "Your containment strategy has failed for 10,000 years. It's time to try our approach." His communicator chimed with an encrypted signal Arasor Sophia's team making contact from within the facility. "Admiral," Sophia's voice came through, tense but controlled. "We've reached the central chamber. The Genesis device is active, but we've managed to slow its power-up sequence." "Thomas Reed is interfacing with it somehow." "Interfacing?" Marcus questioned sharply. "He says he can sense its operational principles," Sophia explained. "But we've got bigger problems. We found the human captives around hundreds of them, not dozens. And Donovan discovered records showing this has been happening since before the Exile decree. The Council has been abducting humans for experiments for over a century." The revelation sent a chill through the bridge. Marcus turned slowly to face the Council representatives, his expression hardening. "Is this true?" he demanded. High Arbiter Tulvar's bioluminescent patterns dimmed with what might have been shame. "The Continuum operated without full Council approval. We suspected but had no proof. You knew," Marcus cut her off. "And you did nothing. How many humans have been sacrificed for your experiments?" Before Tulvar could respond, alarms blared throughout the ship. On the main view screen, darkness swirled around the research facility. "Voidborn, attracted by the activating Genesis device. All ships, defensive positions," Marcus ordered. "Commander Ishida, initiate Ares Protocol." "Lieutenant Reyes, you need to evacuate now." "Negative," Sophia replied firmly. "Reed says he's made a breakthrough. The Genesis device doesn't just create Voidborner, it can reverse the process. We might be able to end this permanently, but we need time." Marcus hesitated, weighing the risk to his people against the opportunity to stop the Voidborn threat forever. "How much time?" 20 minutes, came Thomas Reed's voice, sounding strained. "I need 20 minutes to reconfigure the quantum matrices." "You'll have it," Marcus decided. "Commander Ishida, Deploy Ares vessels to contain the Voidborn. All other ships form a defensive perimeter around the facility. From the Earth fleet, 12 smaller vessels detached, sleek, dark crafts unlike any conventional design. As they approached the swirling Voidborn, their hulls began to shimmer and partially fade from normal visibility. The Ares ships are engaging, reported the tactical officer. Phase shift transition in progress. On the main screen, the specialized vessels seemed to flicker between existence and non-existence as they entered the same dimensional state as the Voidborn. Where conventional weapons had passed harmlessly through the void entities, the Ares ship's weapons connected, dispersing portions of the darkness. The High Arbiter watched in astonishment. Your people have achieved what we thought impossible for millennia. Because we had to, Marcus replied simply. Now help us finish this or get out of our way. Inside the hidden facility, Sophia Reyes and her team worked frantically to protect Thomas Reed as he communed with the ancient Genesis device. The chamber around them was a marvel of forbidden technology, our crystalline structures pulsing with energy, holographic displays showing fluctuations in reality itself. General Doc stood guard at the main entrance, his scales a determined blue as he fired on continuum forces attempting to retake the chamber. We cannot hold them much longer, he warned. Major Donovan coordinated the evacuation of the human captives, many of whom had been kept in stasis for decades. Medical team reports all survivors are stable. Beginning transport to the shuttle bay. Sophia glanced at the Genesis device, a towering pillar of intertwining energy conduits, surrounding a dark core that seemed to swallow light. Thomas Reed stood before it, eyes closed, hands spread as if conducting an invisible orchestra. Occasionally his form seemed to flicker, becoming momentarily transparent. Reed, she called anxiously. Stay with us. His eyes remained closed, but he nodded slightly. The device, it's not just technology. It's a bridge. A doorway between defined reality and quantum potential. His voice sounded distant, echoing strangely. The Voidborn want to come home. Home? Sophia questioned. What do you mean? They were once like us, Reed explained, his body flickering more frequently now. The first test subjects. Their consciousness transformed, stretched across all possible realities simultaneously. Maddening, painful. They've been trying to return to singular existence, but didn't know how. Each consumption of matter and energy was an attempt to rebuild themselves. Are you saying the Voidborn aren't attacking? They're crying for help? Donovan asked incredulously. Yes, Reed whispered, for 10,000 years. On the bridge of the Defiance, Marcus received this information with growing disbelief. Dr. Ferris, is this possible? Eliana nodded slowly, connections forming in her mind. It matches my theory. The inverse relationship between human consciousness and Voidborn energy patterns. It's not opposition, it's complementarity. They're drawn to human minds because we represent what they've lost, the ability to collapse quantum potential into single outcomes. If Reed is right, Marcus realized, then the Ares protocol isn't just fighting Thamar, it's showing them a path back. The battle outside had intensified. Continuum ships fired on Earth vessels, while both fought to hold back the growing Voidborn presence. The Ares ships moved through the darkness like sharks through water, their quantum-entangled pilots navigating the void dimension with growing confidence. Admiral, Commander Ishida reported, Ares pilots are confirming Reed's theory. They're detecting patterns in Voidborn behavior, consistent with communication attempts. They're not just attacking they're trying to interface. Can we establish communication? Marcus asked. We're trying, Ishida replied. But there's resistance from within the facility. Someone is trying to accelerate the Genesis device's power-up sequence remotely. Marcus turned to the council representatives. Someone in your leadership is still trying to weaponize the Voidborn. Before they could respond, the ship rocked with a massive energy surge from the facility. On screen, the dark core of the Genesis device flared with blinding intensity. Reed, Marcus called over the comm. What's happening? No response came from Thomas Reed. Instead, Sophia's voice cut through the chaos. Admiral Reed has fully interfaced with the device. He's become a conduit between our dimension and theirs. Inside the chamber, Reed's form had become almost transparent, energy coursing through him into the Genesis device. The dark core was changing, becoming a swirling portal of possibilities. He's reconfiguring it, Sophia reported urgently. creating a stable bridge that the Voidborn can use to return to normal space-time, not as destroyers but as they once were. Can he survive this? Marcus demanded. Sophia's hesitation told him everything. He says it requires a consciousness that can exist in both states simultaneously. He's the anchor point, a sacrifice. Reed was offering himself as the bridge between worlds. All ships, Marcus ordered. Protect the facility at all costs. Ares vessels, draw the Voidborn. The Grand Chamber of the Galactic Council looked vastly different than it had just weeks before. The massive obsidian doors stood permanently open now, a symbolic gesture to the new era of transparency. Where once only authorized council representatives could enter, now observers from hundreds of species filled the expanded viewing galleries. Among them, humans from Earth colonies mingled freely with aliens who had, until recently, known them only as the mysterious exiled species. At the center of the chamber, Admiral Marcus Vega stood before a semicircle of council representatives, including the 7 Supreme Councilors. The formal hearing to determine humanity's future place in galactic society had drawn the largest audience in council history, with billions more watching via quantum entanglement broadcasts across thousands of worlds. The council calls this extraordinary session to order, announced Acting High Arbiter Lyra of the Marathi, who had replaced Tulvar after revelations of the latter's tacit knowledge of continuum activities. We gather to address the formal end of humanity's exile and the proposals for Earth's integration into galactic society. Marcus wore his dress uniform, the dark blue fabric adorned with silver insignia representing Earth and her colonies. Beside him stood Lieutenant Sophia Reyes and Dr. Eliana Ferris, representing military and scientific interests respectively. Conspicuously absent was Thomas Rita, though a shimmering presence at the edge of perception suggested he was watching in his new form. Before we begin formal proceedings, Marcus addressed the chamber, I wish to acknowledge the sacrifices made to reach this point. Thomas Reed, who transcended human existence to become a bridge between dimensions. The Ares Protocol pilots who risked their sanity to enter the void. The many civilians, ours both human and alien, who died during the Voidborn crisis. The chamber observed a moment of silence. Even the most skeptical council members showed respect for those lost. Now, Marcus continued, we must address the crimes that led us here. The Continuum's illegal experiments, the abduction of human subjects in violation of even the exile decree, the deliberate suppression of information about the true nature of the Voidborn. On cue, Sophia activated a holographic display showing evidence recovered from the hidden facility, ponder records of human abductions dating back over a century, genetic experiments performed without consent, and the systematic cover-up orchestrated by high-ranking council officials. 47 council representatives have been implicated, she reported calmly, including 3 former Supreme Councilors and numerous military leaders. The Dravari councilors' crystalline form darkened with shame. The council acknowledges these crimes and accepts responsibility. The responsible parties are being detained and will face justice according to both council law and human law, as the victims were predominantly human. This concession, Marskir allowing human legal standards to apply to council officials, represented an unprecedented shift in the balance of power. Never before had the council submitted to the legal authority of a single species. Justice for past crimes is essential, Marcus agreed. But more important is ensuring such abuses never happen again. To that end, Earth proposes a restructuring of the council itself. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. What Marcus was suggesting went beyond mere membership. It was a fundamental challenge to the 10,000-year-old power structure of galactic governance. Dr. Ferris stepped forward to explain. The current council system concentrates power among species with the longest membership history. This creates inherent biases, and resistance to new perspectives are the very factors that led to the Voidborn crisis and humanity's unjust exile. She activated a different holographic display, showing a new organizational structure. We propose a balanced system with 3 governing branches: the Historical Council representing established species, the Innovation Council where newer species can contribute fresh perspectives, and the Oversight Council comprised of representatives from both to ensure balance. Unprecedented, objected the Kreth counselor, though his tone lacked its former hostility. Such a restructuring would take decades to implement. Perhaps, Marcus conceded. But the alternative is continuing a system that has consistently failed to address its own flaws. The Voidborn crisis was merely the most recent example. Acting High Arbiter. Lyra's delicate features showed thoughtful consideration. Admiral Vega raises valid points. The Voidborn situation exposed fundamental weaknesses in our governance. A system that allows a splinter group like the Continuum to operate unchecked for millennia requires serious reform. General Dox, now representing the military interests of the Reformed Council, stood to address the chamber. His scales shimmered with conviction. I have fought alongside humans, witnessed their courage and innovation. Their different perspective isn't just valuable, it's essential. The old council feared this difference. The new council should embrace it. The debate continued for hours, with representatives from hundreds of species offering perspectives. Through it all, Marcus noted the shifting dynamics with satisfaction. Species that had been marginalized under the old system found their voices amplified. Those that had dominated began to listen more than they spoke. During a recess, Marcus found himself approached by an unexpected figure. The Elori Supreme Counselor, who had been among the most skeptical of humans initially. Admiral, she greeted him, six-fingered hands forming a respectful gesture. Your proposals are challenging, but perhaps necessary. She hesitated before adding, I was present 73 years ago when the Exile decree was enacted. I voted in favor. It is perhaps the greatest regret of my long life. Marcus studied her, seeing genuine remorse. The past cannot be changed, Counselor, but the future is unwritten. Indeed, she agreed. And that brings me to the real reason for our conversation. There is one piece of information the Council has still not shared publicly. The information about humanity's origins. Marcus tensed. What about our origins? The Elori glanced around to ensure privacy before continuing. The quantum nature of human consciousness that makes your species uniquely capable of interfacing with void dimensions. It is not entirely natural evolution. What are you suggesting? Marcus asked cautiously. Preliminary analysis of the ascended the transformed Voidborner has revealed genetic markers similar to ancient human DNA, she explained. The implications are significant. Marcus processed this revelation, pieces falling into place. You're saying humanity was influenced by the Voidborn? That our evolution was engineered? Not by the Voidborn as they were, the Elori clarified, but perhaps by those who first became Voidborn, the original test subjects who transcended normal existence 10,000 years ago. Why would they do this? Marcus wondered. Perhaps they foresaw that eventually their transformed kin would need a way back, the Elori suggested. A bridge species capable of understanding both defined reality and quantum potential. The implications were staggering. Humanity's unique consciousness, their adaptability, their very nature as a species, all might be the result of ancient intervention. This information should be shared, Marcus decided, not hidden away as another council secret. The Elori nodded slowly. I agree. The era of council secrets must end. When the session resumed, Marcus added this revelation to his testimony. Rather than creating outrage, it seemed to solidify support for humanity's proposals. Their unique position as a bridge between traditional existence and the newly discovered realm of the Ascended made their perspective essential for the galaxy's future. Near the chamber's edge, a shimmering presence that had once been Thomas Reed observed with satisfaction. His consciousness now existed across multiple dimensions simultaneously, perceiving all possibilities while maintaining his core identity. The Ascended moved around him like schools of fish in an invisible ocean, their once destructive void nature now a creative force of immense potential. Through Reed, they communicated directly to the Council for the first time. Their thoughts manifested as patterns of light within the chamber, translating complex multidimensional concepts into understandable form. We were lost, came their collective voice, haunting and beautiful. Trapped between states of being, humans showed us the way back to balance, not to return to what we were, but to become what we could be. The chamber fell silent, witnessing the historic first direct communication between the Ascended and the Council. We offer alliance, the Ascended continued, knowledge of realities beyond conventional understanding. But we will speak through humanity as our bridge to your world. This announcement shifted the debate entirely. Humanity was no longer merely applying for council membership. They had become essential intermediaries to an entirely new form of intelligence. The voting, when it finally came, was decisive. The council would be restructured along the lines humanity had proposed. Earth would receive not just membership, but leadership positions within all three new governing branches, and a new entity would be established, the Interface Division, where humans and Ascended could work together to explore the boundaries between dimensions. As the formal session concluded, Sophia approached Marcus with news from Earth. "The government has approved everything," she reported, "including the establishment of interface academies to train humans with quantum sensitivity like Reed.